right now, it's time to call Cam Clarke. So, are you ready for this?
I am so ready for this.
Hello?
Hi, is this Cam Clarke?
Indeed, it is.
Awesome. Okay, I guess third time's the charm.
Yeah, there you go.
So just so you know, I'm Jeremiah, the one who's been contacting you. I also have with me on this call Jason.
Hi.
From across the pond.
Hi, guys.
So, do you have any questions for us before we start?
Did you say across the pond?
Yes, I'm British, sorry.
Oh, hi. So what time is it where you are?
6:10 p.m., so not too bad.
Ah, well, welcome to America.
I'm actually coming in April, so it should be good.
Oh, sweet. Cool.
Yes,
So,
Star Wars
what's that?
Star Wars celebrations in April, so lots of people are coming across the pond for that.
Oh, cool. That's nice. So what can I do you for, boys?
Well, as I mentioned, we have a lot of questions. We like talking to voice actors a lot because you guys are the voice of our childhood, and well, for many of us, the voice of now. And so we like meeting the voices, the people behind the voices, and frankly, you guys tend to have a lot of really good stories and a lot of good. Tend to be a lot better people than some of the actors we've ever talked to.
Uh-oh, now the pressure's on.
No pressure. So, we have a lot of questions from listeners. We have questions from ourselves, but I think a good place to start, frankly, because I was just watching the new version of the new version. Let's start with Ninja Turtles because that's a pretty influential role as far as many people's childhood.
Yeah, it certainly was.
So you got to play Leonardo. How did you get involved in playing Leonardo in the 80s, and how has that influenced you? How has that affected you today?
Well, let's see, to address the first part, it was just an audition like a million others, and got the role, and lots of others, and it was just, another job at that when we started. I'm glad to have the work, but it wasn't till, it started airing that we realized what we were part of. I will say that they couldn't decide who was between Townsend and me, which one was to play Leonardo and which one was to play Michelangelo. And we just tossed a coin and went, okay, the first time through, Ken, you do Leonardo, and Sammy, you do Michelangelo. And something happened in the booth during a record, and the session ended, and they never switched over to try the other. So I guess you could say that the voices that you guys grew up with on those two roles was a bit decided by a coin toss.
Wow. So are you satisfied with being Leonardo, or did you want to be Michelangelo as well?
Oh, of course I wanted to be Michelangelo. Who wouldn't want to be Michelangelo? I was pretty much, Leonardo was pretty much the straight man to all of the other characters' wacky, personalities. And I wanted to be one of the wacky turtles. But it just wasn't, we didn't get to switch around, so I kind of just had to get on board with being the leader and the one who has to crack the whip and stuff like that. So it's great. And you said, how has it affected me? What was your question? How has it affected what current?
Well, how has playing Leonardo, which is one of the the big animated shows of the 80s, affected you as a voice actor? Like, has it opened more doors, given you more opportunities, and so on?
So I couldn't say about that. When you get jobs, it's like, Well, I must say I did get one job a couple of years ago because the producer who grew up with me, said, "You were one of my heroes, and I just want you on board here," which was a show that ran for a couple of years starring Sean Astin called Special Agent Oso. And so as far as work goes, that, I don't know how many times other people have said something like that, and I just didn't know it. But this guy came out and said, "That's why I want you here." But the work part aside, the best thing that's ever, how it's affected me, is the fan mail. The letters, we're thinking it's just, a fun cartoon show that's very successful and funny little scripts and stuff. But I get mail. I mean, I got a post just today from this woman who said that growing up, her parents got divorced, and how having that half hour of Ninja Turtles after school every day gave her a place to rest during her parents, the trauma of having her parents get divorced, and I get other kinds of notes about that kind of a thing, and it's very humbling to think that something like that could affect people's, not just give them some fun childhood memory, but get them through something. And it's not like just a one-time thing. I get people at Comic-Cons that come up and go, this happened or that happened in my childhood that was very traumatic, but I had you. And it's very humbling. So it's a wonderful thing. That's the best thing that ever came out of it.
Awesome. That's a fantastic story. That's the type of stuff we like to hear. So how did you get...
Being that I'm, I'm out as an actor and as a person, getting mail from gay kids who are, scared to death that their parents are going to disown them or that their friends won't talk to them, they know that the guy behind Leonardo and He-Man and Simba is gay. And it's like, well, if, a gay guy can be a superhero or king of the jungle, then, maybe I'm not so bad after all, kind of thing. Some very intimate notes about I'm scared and, but what, stuff like that. And that's very important to me. And I am, couldn't be more tickled that I was able to do that for some people.
Wow, it's great that fans respond so much to, the things that, you wouldn't expect. I can imagine, Ninja Turtles would be one of your bigger ones, but you've been in so many different influential shows, especially in the 90s, from, the Bruce Timm stuff to Greg Wise's Gargoyles to, you were in Robotech, you were in Acura. Have you found that you can, you not necessarily, you attract fan mail from fans from many different walks of life, many different genres, many different experiences?
Yes, definitely. I mean, shows resonate with this person that don't, isn't that big a deal for someone else, or vice versa, or, the folks that just love your whole body of work. So it's as different as snowflakes, when the folks line up to say hello, they all have their own story and they all have their own favorites. And like, some of them don't know, they don't know everything I've done. And I've got all these, 8x10s lined up that they can choose from to get me to autograph. And I'll have, someone coming up knowing I'm Leonardo and look down at my table and they go, "Wait, what? You were Kaneda? You're kidding me, man. Hey, Joe, over here, this guy was Kaneda,"
I can relate to that. I got to meet Jim Cummings the other day, and half the roles that he was in, I didn't remember he was in at all because I was so fixated on certain ones.
Right. That's exactly it.
So here's a listener question. They want to know, have you ever gotten fan mail about a show that you really did not expect to get anything about, because it was either an obscure show, a small show, one that didn't last long, or one that wasn't really aimed at people that would send fan mail? Have you ever gotten fan mail from something like that?
Yeah. I would say there are two in particular that were done by the same company that I don't think even aired in America. Maybe they, I think, were they English? Spanish? It's one of the first things I ever did. In fact, one of them was the first thing that I did that comes with a cute story with it. So there's a few letters that speak to Dog Canyon and the Three Musket Hounds, and even more obscure is a thing called Around the World with Willie Fogg.
I know both of those. I love them both.
What's that?
I'm well aware and love both of them. So being from the UK, where I don't know half of the programs we're talking about, even the really popular ones in the US, I kind of didn't notice as a child. So the really obscure ones that happen to be ones I watched a lot, I always love. And those are,
really?
Yeah.
So you said you did know of Dog Canyon.
All the time as a child, always on TV. Not even sure why, no idea. Our TV scheduling was weird.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Most people don't even know who that is, but that was my very first job. And I actually crashed the audition for that. I wasn't on the list, and I just showed up and gave the gal at the front desk, gave her my name, and she says, well, I don't have you on this list. And I go, well, how could I be here if I wasn't supposed to be on the list? How would I know this is happening? And a friend had told me about it. And, I kind of just went, what do you want me to say? I'm here. And she kind of, just like something out of a movie or something. She goes, well, oh dear, well, okay, well, just sign in, but I don't know why you're not on here, thinking maybe it was her fault or something. And so I sat down and read for it and got the job. And these were the folks that through whom I booked Robotech and just did a lot of my early dubbing work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, as if that wasn't weird enough, this was a TV program that came out 5 years before I was born that I was watching when I was about 10 years old. Or 8 years old, so very, very strange. But no, since we happen to be going back to the early shows you did, I know this is a question that we ask all the time and that gets asked all the time, but what made you want to go into voice acting? What was the sort of the voice acting that you saw growing up that made you want to go in that direction? And what's that kind of story?
Well, I wish I could tell you that you're on the right track, but most people of my generation, I don't speak for all, but cartoons were just something we watched on Saturday morning or after school. And I had no connection to going, hey, I want to do what this guy's doing. And also remember, I presume it's there on your notes or something, that I was an on-camera child star back in the 60s. So I was in the business already doing, my family, we had this musical variety television show back in the 1960s called The King Family. All singing, all dancing. Anyway, the cartoon thing was just something I watched, and then when the cartoons were done, I'd go out and ride my bike. But I was already in the business, and after, series of events, I came back. I was raised in LA, but I came back to town, and I just decided to try any arena of performing, be it theater or TV or movies or modeling or commercials or this thing called voiceover. And voiceover is what it responded to me, I guess you could put it, And I went, well, nobody wants to put me in their, movie, and nobody wants to put me in their TV series, but this world over here seems to like me. So, screw it. I'm going there. And then, so it wasn't like something I loved and wanted to get into. It kind of chose me, and I went, wow, this is cool.
Do you have any?
And I couldn't think of no, not a one. I love that this is the land that I grew up in. I have no regrets about not being in TV and movies and stuff like that. I've had a longevity to my career that a lot of people on camera don't get that option.
Wow. So another question from a listener. The listener says they're a huge fan of the Charlie Brown and Snoopy films. And they want to know, was there a reason why for Snoopy the musical they cast you rather than Bill Melendez, who's been Snoopy in everything? Was there a specific reason or story behind that?
Sure. If your is it a caller or a write-in has seen it, it was a Broadway musical. So they needed someone, Snoopy just didn't make those silly noises he makes. He had to sing and act and sing big Broadway songs. And they wanted a young guy to play Snoopy. So a casting call went out that needed singers who could act. And, he didn't make any of those noises in the stage play. Just like in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, that wasn't a part of it. That was something developed for the cartoons from television. So I will say, when you guys or other people talk about their growing up and what kind of, animation entertainment, rocked their world, for me, I ate and breathed and drank Charles Schulz. I have every book ever written by him, every cartoon book, and could not get enough of Charlie Brown Christmas or Charlie Brown All-Stars or Great Pumpkin, the three first shows he did. But reading his comic strip was like having friends. After school, I would come home and I would play with Charlie Brown and Lucy and Frida and Schroeder. So that way I can relate to it, but it was mainly the cartoons and his specials. But so when I got the role to play Snoopy, I will say that was a dream come true and one of the highlights of my career.
Wow.
Because it was something that I loved. I had, calendars, I had sweatshirts and banners, just like I hear when people come up about turtles and they go, oh, I had turtle sheets and I had, turtle hat and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, I had Charlie Brown sleeping bag, and overnight bag. And if it existed, I had it.
Did your family background of, you're the child of a singer, you have lots of musicians in your family, either your siblings or, uncles and whatever, did that help influence the fact that, you being in Snoopy the Musical, the California Raisins show, I believe you did an album, 10 years ago, Inside Out?
I actually have a couple of albums, Inside Out, which did actually quite well. And then I did one that's just kind of my own project, and it's available on my website, but a Christmas album. My family, in our television show, we were kind of famous for holiday specials. And, you talk about a cartoon being something important in, people of your generation. My family, people grew up with my family and would say, having you guys at Christmas time was like having, 20 brothers and sisters, or, it's a similar thing. This was live action and music. But I still get fan mail from that about, oh, I grew up with you and couldn't wait to watch you and your family on TV. So, people gravitate to maybe either something that reminds them of something in their life or something that's missing maybe in their life, whether it's companionship or family or music. But to get back to your original question, definitely coming from a musical family helped shape my ability to be a singer. And it still goes on now. I mean, my cousins are Arcade Fire. Very successful band right now.
Yeah.
And I have a niece whose name is Rachel Coleman, and she has a very successful children's program for which she was nominated for an Emmy called Signing Time, which is about sign language. So it's still going on, and it's nurture, nature, a little of both, I think, but we definitely have it in our genes.
That's definitely what it sounds like. So you mentioned how people awarded nominated for an Emmy, and you were part of an Emmy award-winning reboot of a very classic 80s, I think it was 80s show, maybe 70s. But when you did the Masters of the Universe He-Man reboot, which at work they just bought the entire thing, and so the kids have been watching it over and over on repeat, and they're actually really enjoying the reboot. So did you have any connection to the original He-Man show, as in, like, were you a fan or were you aware of it? And what was it like trying to bring a show that was that well loved in that kind of classic sense to modern cartoons where it was definitely different when it came out?
I was probably, the original He-Man was after my time, so I wouldn't have been watching it. And again, I guess because doing voices is just what I do, I didn't think that hard about things. I had never seen the show, and I didn't think it was essential. The audition had a request for what they were looking for, and so I gave them. They said, we want the same guy to play Prince Adam and He-Man. So I gave him my best 16-year-old and my best big, bulky superhero voice. And that got me the part.
Yeah, have you gotten, I'm assuming that's another role where you've gotten fan mail from because of the type of role it is. Because I was talking to actually a bunch of old school He-Man fans the other day, and it's one of the few shows that they've rebooted that old school fans as well as new fans have actually all enjoyed.
That's good to know. Good to hear.
Okay, so we're going to switch to another fan question. This fan wants to know, have you ever really wanted to get a role in a show because you were a fan of either the person making it or the source material? Shows like, say, Spider-Man, or Disney projects where you're Simba, or the Bruce Timm Justice League, and so on.
As I said, the Snoopy thing is a perfect example of a childhood dream come true. I can't say a childhood dream because I didn't ever think of voiceovers as a thing, but that was the greatest thing that I've ever done. As far as thinking of other things that are you saying like things that I wished I had been involved in?
No, shows that
didn't happen,
or that one, or shows that you were involved in that you really, really wanted to be involved in, like say you were a big fan of Spider-Man, so you really wanted to be in Spider-Man, so it was a dream come true to be in Spider-Man, like you were for Snoopy. Any other shows other than Snoopy, or projects that you really wanted to be involved in that you were happy when you got to be in?
Okay, here's an obscure one. And I don't think it ran very long, but there was a reboot of Felix the Cat.
Oh.
And I played Poindexter. And this was a show that I watched daily after school. And when I heard they were doing it again, I went, oh man, wouldn't this be fun? But that's an example of that. I don't even know if y'all know that was a reboot, because I've never seen any real reference to it.
Hadn't thought of it, no.
But as far as like, yeah. But as far as like Spider-Man or there were not projects that I knew ahead of time that, I'd like to be a part of that. But once I saw the auditions, saw how it was written, I went, wow, that would be cool if I got that job. And sometimes I did, and, sometimes I didn't.
Okay, I know Jason has a couple of questions. I'm going to switch over to the British for the next little bit.
That's all right. No, so you've been involved in a load of projects, a very, very diverse range, from ones where you played multiple voices in the same show to ones where you had to come up with a new voice, and other ones where you've had to try and duplicate a voice from before, or even take a normal voice and then the sort of adapt it as a singing voice. And we've talked to lots of different voice actors over the years, and one of the interesting things I always find is that different people find different bits difficult. So some people find it really easy to adapt a voice for a different setting, or talking to themselves in multiple voices. They can just do it live, which is always magical to me. I don't know how you can do it. My question, I guess, is which were the most challenging voices you had to do, or challenging ways of adapting those voices, and which were the things that perhaps other people might see as being difficult that you actually found relatively easy?
Okay, now should I speak to you in your language while we're talking on this?
Go for it.
just so the folks over where you live can understand me better. Your accent is the most beautiful in all the world. And, it's funny that most Americans say, they can't get enough of English programming like, Downton Abbey or what have you, because anything you say, whether it's a bad show or not, you're using your accent, and people love that. So I tip my hat to your beautiful language.
Thank you very much,
I was fluent in English.
Well, I'm not fluent in American, so I'm not going to try it.
In a roundabout way of answering your question, if I auditioned for it, it's because either they thought I could do it or I thought I could do it. So I know this is, I wish I could give you a more complicated answer, but none of that was ever an issue for me. The only thing that would have been a problem, and this is something I tell anybody who's interested in going into the field, and it was one of the first notes I got, is be very careful that if you're auditioning for something, make sure what you lay down is something you can sustain. Because I made that mistake a couple times, trying to do a big voice or a gnarly voice, and I just can't keep that up. And I was like, damn it, why did, what was I thinking? I can't do this. Generally in cartoons, it's not like you're talking using that one voice over and over and over again for 4 hours in a row. But still, like in video games, though, when it's just you sitting there doing all of your lines, there can be voices where it's like, I can't sustain this. And so that's a word to new folks. But talking to myself and switching voices has never been a problem.
And I guess this would lead into... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, in fact, one of my favorite things as a kid, my folks gave me a tape recorder for Christmas one year. And I used to sit in my room and I'd interview myself and use different voices and make up people that I was, that were going to be on my radio show. And never thinking that would be employed in my future career.
Well, this actually leads into something I know you really wanted to talk about, but you have a stage show, I believe, coming up where you get to give the advice of a voice actor. We could talk about being Leonardo, Liquid Snake, and Metal Gear, He-Man, Simba, and so on. Why don't you talk about that show that you have?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. It's a show that we're doing here in Los Angeles. It's called Stop Me If I Told You This. It opens up the end of the month, and I would love it if any of you folks who listen to your program are in this area would come out. I'd love to meet you, say hi. And if you have any plans to come to L.A., make it in the month of March. The show it's an autobiographical show that traces my life from, like I said, on the King family. And I have all kinds of clips of all this singing and dancing from when I was a kid back on TV in the 60s and 70s. And I employ a number of my voiceover actors. They kind of act as my subconscious or the voice, the decision makers in your head when you're at a crossroad. You're whatever that is for you out there. Is it going to college? Or is it picking a career, or, whatever. And in your brain, you're going, well, if I go to this school, that means that, but I'd really rather be an artist than a lawyer, but that's kind of scary, and blah, blah, blah. Well, the cartoon characters act as all those voices in the show when I'm at crossroads. And, Leonardo is the hero part of my mind, and Liquid Snake from Metal Gear Solid is in it, and Mac from Clifford the Big Red Dog, and a little-known character called Was from a show called Eek the Cat. He plays the baby. The person inside you that's the little innocent part of you that's just like with wonderment, except in this show I gave him a foul mouth. So you get to see characters that talk to each other from other universes. Leonardo, having to, crack the whip on Liquid Snake, and Mac from Clifford, talking to whoever of these various different characters, to He-Man. And so it's a real kaleidoscopic view of that. And I also talk about my being raised Mormon and being gay and how that crazy roller coaster played out. So I'm really proud of it. It's been a couple of years in the making, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And like I said, we'd love to meet people after the show and, chat just like if we were at a Comic-Con or whatever. So that's kind of it. And you can find out about it at camclarke.com. And Clarke, don't forget, is Clarke. You British folks know that letter costs a lot of money to get a silent letter. And but that's what I'm up to currently. Working on a couple of other shows, and I would love it if folks could come out.
Awesome. I'm going to give Jason an opportunity to ask another question if he has any other questions, and then I have two to wrap up.
I've got a couple, but sorry. I've got a couple, but the first one, obviously we're called Bombard Radio, and we've got a background of most of our listeners are big fans of Star Wars, and you've been involved in a number of Star Wars projects, from my favourite game, X-Wing Alliance, all the way up to Star Wars: The Clone Wars and so on. I'm just curious to know how that goes for the sort of small parts, and we've talked to a few people who did major characters, and they've talked us through the full process of that. But were you just called up as somebody who they already knew from working with other projects, or And how did you get roped into all of those different things?
Oh, I was roped into it, I would gladly have been up for. In fact, I think it was the most recent Star Wars project that ran for quite some time, I think. You talked earlier about what are some maybe obscure things that people have latched onto. Well, I did this story arc that was maybe, I don't know, only 3 episodes as this character, help me out here, Omar.
Omer, yeah.
What is it?
I believe it's Omer.
How do you pronounce it?
I believe it's Omer.
Yeah,
okay, with a large head, a large bald head.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was a character where I used a voice that I've never used before, and I had so wished that it had developed into something, because being a part of Star Wars, again, would have been, like, ridiculous. But I'd gotten fan mail. I'd gotten, that's what I was on 3 episodes or 2 episodes, and I get people sending me pictures of him that they've snagged off of online somewhere, asking if I would autograph this character. Now, I know you Star Wars fans are like fierce, gobbling up every corner of that world. And so maybe that's not so strange for people who are fans to want to just have every little piece available to them. But that always had me scratching my head that people would reach out to me from all over, I get mail from all over the world for things, and that character would make people want to say hello and get an autographed picture of him.
That's a good character.
Star Wars, that's definitely how Star Wars fans act. You could even be background number 4 in a video game, and we know you're there. Sign this.
That's crazy. I know, man. That's crazy.
I'm sure there are some crazy collector people who are trying to get every single character who's ever appeared anywhere signed. But there are also people who, genuinely, that's a great story arc. It's only 2 episodes, but it's a fantastic couple of episodes, and those characters were very good. So it wasn't like it was a voiceless or one-line character somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But it's always amazing to see how people have been affected by that kind of thing. And that was around the same time as well that you were doing Professor X in the more recent X-Men TV series.
Yeah.
So.
And that's I'm enjoying that because he's such an icon, and to be asked to play him was like, well, this is one of the roles of a lifetime to be involved in that.
Were you ever tempted to go Patrick Stewart with the voice, or did they really want you to stay away from Patrick Stewart's voice?
I didn't have to audition for it. They just called and said, we'd like you to do that, and that's obviously, it has a flavor of him in it, and that's what they wanted, and they knew that I could, kind of create that sound. And in fact, 1,000 years ago, I directed Patrick Stewart in some video games, and there's certain ways that we do everything, and it had never crossed my mind that you treat a celebrity differently. We were doing this game, and often when we do lines, we just add, and still to this day, you'll have a line, and the director will say, okay, we're just going to roll tape and give it to me 3 different ways, whatever the line is. And he said in that voice that so belongs to him, I said, okay, Patrick, on this one, would you give me 3 different takes on it, 3 different versions? And he says very close on the mic, oh, how about I just give you the first one and you use that? And I'm like, whoa, before we can do that, yes, sir, you bet. And realized that some celebrities, they do it their way, and, they're there as a selling point. But so to come back full circle and play a character that he made famous is kind of a hoot.
Yeah. Well, my last question before I pass over Salways to Jeremiah is Leonardo was my favourite Ninja Turtle, and I'm a huge fan of pizza in particular.
Oh.
It's a good thing. But I still probably wouldn't seek you out as my inspiration for major advice, and I'm still very much fascinated that you're getting lots of emails, but particularly about being gay and sort of the difficulties of people who aren't openly in that situation and are struggling with it. And I'm it's not really an easy question to answer, but I know that because we have a fair number of listeners, we'll have people that are in that kind of situation or who know people in that situation. I was just wondering if sort of my last question, if there's any advice that you could give to people that are in there that's based on your experiences of being in a similar situation yourself that might be useful.
Sure. It's been a little tricky because sometimes these people ask me about what should they do. Well, of course, I don't know their family, so, I have to be careful what I say. And my answers to that world, that part of this so difficult process, even today, I have to go gentle and say, I don't know your situation firsthand, so I can't speak to that. But one thing that I do say, and I know this is difficult, when you do choose to come out, and of course for your generation, trust me, even though kids are still having trouble, and multiply that towards coming out, in the early 80s. But I had, I've known that I was gay since I was a little kid. So when I came out, although my family was very loving, and they were, even though they were Mormon, nobody turned away, and nobody gave me grief. So I'm very fortunate that way. But my advice is, remember, I'll speak for myself, I had 20 years to get used to this idea. And when I came out, I expected everyone to be on board by breakfast. It's like, okay, I'm gay. All right, let's get on with it. Here, meet this guy that I'm dating. And it's like, whoa, slow down. Wait, whoa. So I recommend that to help some of the make things go smoothly, remember that you have been dealing with this for quite some time, but they haven't. A lot of parents suspect, or friends suspect, but be gentle with them, just like you want them to be gentle with you. And that's not putting myself down or putting being gay down, but it's just a psychological thing that give them some needed room to go, whoa, okay, this is a change of direction. It's just like transgender people, which is a lot more cutting edge. That's not the right term, but coming out gay is a lot different than what I did. But the changing sex is huge, and likewise, you need to give the other people, be gentle with them, and not be snapped to, okay, I'm going to be a girl now, so get on board. Because my mom and I had some scuffles about that, because I was like, come on, honey, let's get with it. So that would be my main little advice as far as dealing with the other people. That was a long-winded answer.
Exactly the answer I hoped for. Thank you very much.
I think that's actually we've pretty much used the time that we said we'd use, so that's a great way to end this. The last question we always ask, if there's anything else you have yet to promote, if you'd like to promote your show one last time, or any upcoming programs that you're in, video games or whatever, any upcoming projects that you want to promote, we'll give you one last opportunity to toot your horn and promote all you wish.
Sure. Like I said, please, if you can, come out and see my show. I'm really proud of it. I will also tease you with the fact that the original Turtles were all together in the booth in the recording studio at Nickelodeon. And I can say nothing more than that we are all together on the new show with the latest incarnation of Turtles for an episode. And I got clearance to tell you that much, but you know how these programs are with their secrets and, you know, wanting to release information at their desired time. But it was euphoric to be with these three of my best friends in life and in cartoonville, to be sitting in the studio again together, doing the voices that we made famous, you know, however many years ago that was. Yikes, what, 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
Well, I'm 27, and it came out when I was born, so.
Okay. Do you know how old that makes me? Anyway, so that's been a fun little thing. And I think, you know, that way we bookended with the Turtles, you know, the craziest go figure of my career. But, yeah, being with them was wonderful. And so keep your ears and eyes peeled for further info about that. And we are going to be in D.C. in May, whatever the Awesome Con, I think it's called. So that's a con that we have on the books where you can meet us all at the same time. And I guess that's my world to date.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and stories. Yeah. And I hope they truly do help people out. And of course, if anyone wants to contact you, camclarke.com is where they can find you. That's right. And this airs, did you say tomorrow? Or I guess that airs. It's on right now. It's on right now. Okay. Great. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you all, and good luck with your program. And,
thank you. It's been a bigger pleasure for us.
It's been real fun sharing some old memories with you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing them, and we'll hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
And say hello to all my distant cousins in Bath, England. That's where we're from. So,
excellent.
Give them my best. All right, turtle power, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.